It's a place where ambitions become reality, but only for those that the mountain chooses. We're on the road to the Repco Bathurst 1000. It's Christmas for car racing fans, so let's get rolling with a great race edition of the Undercut. Yes, great to have you with us. This is the Undercut, once again proudly brought to you by the team from Shell V-Power with the new Shell Motorsport Collection. It's available now from Shell OTR and Shell Ready Express. You can collect all 8 cars over the upcoming weeks. There's more details on that during the show, and you can see what all 8 cars look like. City Rural Insurance Brokers are back on board with us as well for another classic car, and this time around it's got a bit of a Bathurst tinge, a car that claimed victory in one of the most drama-charged Bathurst 1000s ever seen. On the panel once again this week are our 2 Undercut lads who are eager to get to the mountain. Jack Perkins, welcome to you.
Thanks, Noons.
And James Moffat, welcome to you.
Thank you very much.
Gents, the Peter Brock Trophy's on the line. It's that time of year. We've got the AFL Grand Final out of the way, the NRL Grand Finals to come, but the Grand Final that's not really the Grand Final for Supercars is about to come. Do you boys change right about now? Do you go from the mild-mannered chaps that you are during the week and become absolute racing car animals for the next week?
Well, it's funny, Noons. I love when they wheel out the Peter Brock meme that says footy finals are done, time for Bathurst. So, look, I don't change in answering your question, but it's nice to, you know, have a lot of spotlight on our biggest race of the year, and everyone starts talking about Bathurst, and it's pretty exciting.
James, how about you? How are things in the Moffat household? Does Lee get told, I need to get in the zone this week, I need to be just kept quiet, keep the kids away? What's the story there, or is it just situational?
Nah, try and keep it relatively normal, but yeah, certainly this is the time of the year as particularly a co-driver. You get very excited, especially the lead up to the great race. So yeah, this is 12 months in the making, I guess. So, yeah, very much looking forward to it. It
is a case of game on. There's a lot of big topics to sink our teeth into. And for that, here are the burning questions. So straight up, we need to talk about something that we mentioned on our last episode of The Undercut. And since we were last together on this very desk, the safety car rules have been changed for the Repco Bathurst 1000. Is this applause from both of you and pretty much every other driver?
I think so. Yeah, we were obviously speaking about this on the last show like you spoke about, Noons. And for me, I think common sense has prevailed in this situation. And yeah, I'm looking forward to, I guess, going back to a bit more of a normal safety car procedure that everybody will be used to.
But do you think people won't be used to the level that it's going to be dealt with? Because, I mean, the old days kind of were, righto, get on it, get back to the pits, or get on it and catch the train. Be ready. They're not going to let you just get away with anything here, because they probably haven't in the past at race control been strong enough on that. And that's how we got to the point where we ended up. So do you think there's going to be potentially that someone gets a penalty that goes, oh, hang on a minute, it wasn't like that back in the day?
Yeah, that's, you know, only it'll have to play out really to see how that
Does it need guidelines? Do you need a little bit of guideline around it?
The problem is that the greyness in all that. If there is a penalty dished out and you don't really feel like you've done anything wrong. So I'm sure, you know, the way the drivers' briefing have gone the last couple of years, Jacko, I'm sure we'll get spoken to about what the expectation is heading into the race. But first and foremost, we'll have to have a safety car for us to see how it's going to unfold. So we're obviously trying to predict the future there. And, you know, there's every chance that there might not be a safety car.
Jack, your take?
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. I mean, the Ben, we had all this chat about all these sectors and speed limiters and everything. We didn't have one safety car. And last year at Bathurst, we were looking like having no safety cars either. So I think it's so circumstantial. There's certainly a lot less safety cars and racing laps. So I just think this is the right move. It's worked for the last however many years. I understand it's in the interest of safety of the recovery crews and the flag marshals and everything. So that doesn't get out of the drivers' minds. The safety is always first and foremost. But this is how we have a proper motor race. And I just don't think there would be anyone in pit lane involved in a race team that's disappointed with this outcome.
So now teams can actually fiddle with stuff. They can and ah about who they start the race with from a driver perspective. There is a reward potentially for coming in early, running longer, being different to what everybody else is doing. There is actually a potential reward here. Doesn't mean that there will be, but the potential's now there for it.
Yeah, and I think it'll go back in terms of strategy. It opens up more options. You know, with the full course yellow system in place, the risk was if you got caught out by that full course yellow, pitted too early, or with the method that we went to at Tail and Bend, if you there was more reward to potentially pit just before a safety car. So you've got to probably have teams that will have to consider pit broom priority.
And with the finals on the line, that's another factor too.
Exactly. So I think there's just, this opens up more divergence in the strategy between team cars, which I think is a good thing. And, it won't just be everybody sort of following the leader in strategy land as the last couple of years have been. One
of the things that occurs to me, and you talk about double stacking, is the teams that have the potential to be affected by this, and there's probably no more team that's affected by this than 888. I mean, they're generally the team that has 2 cars running in the top few on the road more often than not. They're probably the potentially biggest losers out of this situation.
I mean, potentially Noons, but for me, I don't know, Moff might share the same thing, but as a co-driver, when I'm watching qualifying, all I'm worried about is if we qualify ahead of our teammate anyway, because it gives you such a priority in the race to have it. So it doesn't really matter which team it is, you always want to be in that pit priority position. So you want to be the first team car on track to get the call on any strategy. But as we've seen over the last 10 or 15 years, it's certainly affected that second 888 car quite a lot, just based on where they're running on the racetrack, typically in the top 3 or 4. So I'm sure that as they've done in the past, they've manoeuvred their way around it with their car speed, but it just puts a highlight on qualifying and the shootout to make sure you've got the priority over your teammate.
And with any team that's got 2 cars that are running well, someone was going to have to be sacrificed somehow. But at least this way now, with the way that the rules have gone, the teams have got a choice in how they can do it, rather than kind of, if it goes one way, you know that your second car's cooked no matter what that might be. So universally, it's been a popular decision. Let's see how it plays out now at Bathurst, but we go back to kind of how it was, but it should open it up for an interesting race. Just quickly too, we've looked at the weather forecast. Have you looked at all, you two?
No.
Nope.
Rain is not expected in the week of Great Race at Bathurst. But having said that, anything can and usually does change. So we'll wait and see how things fold. My next question is movement maturing for supercars in 2026. Now, you might be wondering, what do you mean? What do you mean? Well, the fact is, in the last few weeks, we've had various announcements, and these were all alluded to in our last show. So confirmed James Golding to Blanchard Racing Team. Jackson Evans is out of Brad Jones Racing and the SCT team, which I think caught a few people by surprise. That was announced this week. Cameron Hill's move to Brad Jones Racing is confirmed. So we're now at the point where we're seeing the guys, before they leave their current teams, getting their new shots done in their new team kit. Bryce Ford, of course, is on the market and looking for a gig for next year. So we're in a situation now where, Russell Ingall was the great example, where no confirmation, nothing official to go to Stone Brothers and Ford until after New Year's Eve. And I think your old man might have enforced a contract there to make that happen. But I think as an industry, these are signs that we're starting to mature, because, James Golding's already been shooting socials for Blanchard Racing Team. This is actually encouraging.
Yeah, I guess it's probably just shows that there's a bit of, camaraderie or amicable between the teams in that sense. And the one you do speak of with my dad, with Russell Ingall, I guess, Dad was a Castrol sponsored team, and Russell was going to a Caltex sponsored team, and just made him honour his contract, which was to the 31st of the 12th. So you will still see that play out in some deals that maybe aren't as amicable between teams and drivers, but I think it just sort of shows that, and it's quite funny watching it actually, because in the industry we get to hear a few rumours, and then you'll see, a team announces that the driver's departing first. Then, the next day there's likely a confirmation of a rumour or something like that. So it's quite predictable how it's been playing out. But yeah, I guess it's good. It enables these teams with new drivers and the drivers themselves to be able to go on and chase their commercial interests and bits and pieces without having to, keep it under wraps and keep the rumours under control and stuff like that. So just press on.
We're not quite at the level of the NRL, who, blokes sign for new teams 2 years before they end up actually pulling on the jumper and actually playing for the club. But I thought it was a good sign of a bit of maturity of the industry to be able to get to that point, because I don't think 10 or 15 years ago we kind of all knew who was going where, but no one would actually say until they were in their new clothes in January or February.
Well, one thing we have lost though, Noons, is all these new deals they're always just multi-year deals. Why can't we just come out and say
Two,
it's a flat-out
2 plus
2-year
1.
deal, or it's a 3-year deal, 1-year deal? Like, everybody seems to sign a multi-year deal, and you know there might be an option here, an option there, option on the team, option for the driver. So that's one thing I think we've lost as an industry.
But I don't think that's ever been really. Teams have chosen on what they let out. I mean, DJR and particularly the Penske era were notorious for. They're the kings of multi-year deal. They won't tell you exactly how many multi is a multi, but we see other sports and ball sports have that specifically outlined, announced, told to the world. I think it's a great point that if people know who's actually in play and how they're in play, whether they've got a 2-year deal, a 3-year deal, a 1-year deal, something that's, I mean, there's always triggers as well to potentially things. So having a bit of that out there, I mean, the pit lane kind of knows who's got what and where they are, really. And some guys can leave contracts as well. So we probably should be able to let it out.
Will Brown, case in point, only at the end of 23, got out of his Erebus contract to Triple Eight.
Well, and an interesting part too of that Erebus doco that's recently been launched, Brodie Kostecki made comment in that interview with him that's in the doco, I'm of the understanding that was recorded earlier last year. But he sort of made a reference that he didn't say it in as many words, but he was offered that opportunity to go to Triple Eight in the way that the wording of what he said in that interview. So that was a really interesting one. But it was Will Brown who ended up taking that opportunity. But I think Moff's onto something that we need to follow through on. And yes, let's just say where people are and where they're going to be. So Jack, you know, your $1 million contract is, you know, that we're letting that out now? Or
well, I'd like to think I'm in the middle of about a 15-year multi-year deal with V8 Sleuth at the moment, Noons.
4 episodes and he's absolutely going for
our
it.
relationship goes beyond just the show we're doing, Noons.
We have been told before that we're brothers. I think it's just the specs and the good looks, but whatever the case may be, it has to be the way. Next question, boys. Will Ford be in the game at Bathurst? You boys definitely need them to be, because you've got your bum in a Mustang each. But are they in the game here for the great race? Because it's crucial that Ford contends for victory here.
Yeah, look, this is a really burning question in my opinion. And the last couple of years, the performance of the Ford in the race particular has been, you know, less than ideal compared to the Chevrolets. So, and it's really only in race conditions at Bathurst that it rears its head. So for me, time will have to, I guess, answer this question. One lap pace has not been an issue for the Fords really since the inception of Gen 3, but certainly at Bathurst over the last couple of years, like I said, the race performance has just been nowhere near competitive enough to compete against the Camaros. So yeah, I'm a little bit sceptical on this.
You sound cautious. You still sound cautious.
I have to be. I am cautious only because I've been in a like Jack last year. Jack experienced it driving with James Courtney, but yeah, I've been passed down the straight several times over the last couple of years by Camaros, and not one Mustang has passed me. So, and you know, I haven't passed a Camaro down the straight. So. Yeah, it's a difficult one. Obviously, there's been a lot of things and a lot of testing and changes. So, yeah, Sunday of Bathurst will tell a story.
The proof is going to be in the pudding. 9 of the last 10 Bathurst 1000s have been won by General Motors, across, of course, the Holden Commodore and now into the Chevrolet Camaro in the Gen 3 era. And that one win for Ford was 2019 with Scott McLaughlin and Alex Premer for DJR Team Penske. And it's that team that I want to ask the next burning question about. Could Dick Johnson Racing have saved themselves an early trip to Bathurst? Now, my reason for asking this question, boys, is that they rolled their spare car in at the bend in the Welcome Centre. Then they took it to Bathurst to go on display. Now they've taken it back to prepare to become the Will Davison and Tony D'Alberto car for the Repco Bathurst 1000. Now, I was amazed that they took their actual spare car to the bend to take on to Bathurst when they could have taken one of their cars from last year that has ended up filling the spot at the museum anyway. Forward planning didn't really work out here, I don't think.
Yeah, it's a bit strange the way it's all played out, I guess, if you look at it like that, Noons, and for them to have the car at the Bathurst Museum, you know, ready to be on display during the race week and the weeks leading up to it, and then to do a mercy dash and go and grab it. I think for me, it's what highlights the whole topic is why they are dragging that car out. Obviously, Will Davison's got some issues or thoughts with his own chassis, and they're going back to from an Erebus chassis to a Paul Sepranich built chassis.
Which is the car he drove at the start of the year.
Yeah, but obviously Brodie just won the race with an Erebus chassis, so it seems a bit strange, but they're doing it. They've got their own reasons, and hopefully it works out for them.
I think it's been a common element discussed around. I mean, the wheel fell off at the bends, which meant that they couldn't qualify near the front. But clearly, Will hasn't gelled with that car. There's something inside that car that hasn't quite gone together right. There's been maybe a bit of finger trouble there too. So this at least takes them back to a car that he put on the podium. Don't forget, back in New Zealand in the Jet Couriers colours. So at least it's very much a known car. So we'll see how that unplays. Not the first time that cars have been plucked from museums for big races. I mean, we go back through the files. Al Unser Sr. won the Indy 500 in 1987 to replace Danny Ongais in a car that had crashed. They pulled it out of a hotel lobby, Penske did that to be able to get that to happen. Cal Yarborough won the 83 Daytona 500 in a backup Pontiac that had been on display. And the rules changed for the Le Mans 24 Hour in the early 80s. So the open top 936 Porsche that Jackie Ickx won in had been a museum piece that they brought back to racing. But it's not the first time at Bathurst that a museum car has won an Enduro there.
Yeah, I think Kenny Habul, I can't remember which year it was, Noons, 2022 or 2023, they dragged the Mercedes GT3 car out of Kenny's personal museum, and
it's a pretty big good museum for a personal museum.
Yes, and freighted it out to Bathurst, used it in the race, and won the Bathurst 12 hours. So, yeah, there's a couple of neat little stories there, isn't there, where, I'm sure Will Davison and Tony D'Alberto will be hoping to add their story to that list.
Yeah, absolutely. My next burning question's one that's got a bit of museum flavour. What's your favourite car in the National Motor Racing Museum? Of course, we'll be back at Bathurst next week to check out. You've got to go in and have a look when you're there. No matter if you're there to race or you're there just to have a look, there's always something cool. I've got to tell you, it's the car behind me at the moment. The big banger, Peter Brock, Larry Perkins, the 8405 car. But what's warming your heart that's in the museum at the moment?
Well, Noons, obviously, I do like that car too, with Dad's name on there with Brocky's. But for me, it's the 95 Bathurst winner, which was Dad and Russell Ingall, a chassis Perkins Engineering number 27. It's a cool car. It's been sitting in the museum for a while now, and famous last to first victory, which we're celebrating 30 years this year. So it's crazy to think that was 30 years ago.
Moff?
This might surprise a few people. There's so many good cars to choose from in the museum there. But the 1992 Winfield GDR.
Oh, why would that be, James?
Oh, well, I just, that was a race that sort of was pretty captivating, and then maybe Jimmy Richards' acceptance speech on the podium was rather infamous, wasn't it?
Which, watching the Repco Bathurst ad, seeing Jim roll that out, oh, that was brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
They did play that ad at the Bathurst 1000 and Toyota Supra launch in Sydney a few weeks back before it was publicly released, and the room wet themselves because they'd been told, we apologise for the language, and it was right at the very end when Jim rolls out the famous line when the bus goes speeding past. So that was an absolute zinger, and they've done a great job, Repco, with that ad again this year to really bring the Bathurst before we head to Mount Panorama. So don't forget the museum's open right throughout the course of the week up there for race week and the race weekend. I know on our podcast we tell everyone they're closed on Tuesdays, which they normally are, but for race week they are most certainly not. Of course, we'll be there on Thursday night for our V8 Sleuth Open night with Mark Larkham and the dude, Paul Morris. Tickets are sold out. Don't ask us. There's no more. We are sold out. We might have to put on 2 nights next year, such has been the popularity of our annual night this year. Next question on the Burning Questions. What's your favourite corner on Mount Panorama? There's 23 to choose from, but I think the beautiful thing about this is we don't use turn numbers. We talk about the traditional names, which is probably the only track that we do that on now.
Yeah, and look, I love the fact that we know the corners by the names, and it can be, a lot of people ask us why we put the track map on the steering wheel. It's for a track like Bathurst where they say, hey, there's a safety car at turn 15, and you've got no idea as a driver where turn 15 is. So you have a quick look at your track map. But in answering the question, Noons, for me, I do love the whole track. It is very, very hard for me to pick one
That's 23
corner.
fences you're sitting on there.
Yeah, but that's okay. But I will narrow it down to Skyline. Especially some of the shots during the Bathurst 12 hour when you're coming up and you literally see the sunrise over the skyline. You get to this point in the racetrack where all you can see is the skyline, and it's magical, and then it drops away. And in more recent times, as I've gained more experience, that's where the lap speed comes, starting skyline down the hill. So for me, it's Skyline.
Moff?
McPhillamy Park for me, which is the corner preceding Skyline. So, but just on Skyline, I've got a funny story that my dad used to always say, that the first time he drove at Bathurst, the Ford guys took him up on top of the mountain and they stopped at Skyline because you can see, all over the Bathurst town. And, he's having a look around and he's thinking, oh, this is nice view, but, when are we actually going to the track? And the Ford guy said, well, you're on the track. And he said, that's the last time he ever looked over Skyline on the left-hand side. So, yeah.
I thought you were going to reel off there when I took my mind off the jump.
Well, you almost ended up going over the wall
Cape Canaveral that day.
In 86. So, shorten that mobile... VK Commodore that he was driving with Rocky. That was a big one. There's been a few that have tried to do that since.
He's certainly not the last one to have a crack at trying to punch a hole through the fence at the top of McPhillamy Park. I'm going for Hell Corner. Turn 1. I know that probably doesn't really catch your attention as a race driver, but for me, I love the theatre of Turn 1, the way that it curls into that corner, and it's kind of the whole, this is where the roller coaster starts. You ever think about going on a roller coaster and you get in that little just putting along sort of feeling, this is all nice, and then holy hell, we're into it. Bang, straight up there from Hell Corner. It's called Hell Corner for a reason, because you've got 6.2 Ks ahead of you of, well, it could be hell, but it could be pleasurable if you go fast with a fast race car. Now, we're going to get some tips here on the Undercut of who's going to do what at Mount Panorama next weekend. My next question, who will score pole position? If you're feeling brave, gents, predict a time. Who are you going for?
Well, I find it hard to go past. I'm going to say 2, Brock Feeney and Brodie Kostecki. Brodie's last 2 pole position laps there have been phenomenal. I can't remember exactly what the time was, but I'd be keen to see what he can do in the Ford, as in Brodie, and obviously Brock will do a great job too.
Yeah, I can't narrow it down to one. Noons.
Is this another fence you've got going here?
I'm on the fence. I'm on 3 fences. And I'll give you my reasons why. I've got Feeney, Kostecki and Cam Waters.
In that order?
No.
All right. I'm trying to get him to commit to something.
Obviously, yeah, it's Brodie's form over there in the last couple of years with the Gen 3 platform has been, best of class with back-to-back pole positions. I've seen what Cam can do in a shootout around Bathurst. He really, was a bit of an animal come Saturday afternoon there. And, Brock's form this year is very hard to go past. So for me, it won't be a surprise to see either of those 3 on pole position. A bit of an outside chance for me, though, is Matt Payne.
Yeah.
He was on provisional pole last year. He's had that experience of being in a shootout now. And with the guidance of Garth Tander behind him, that team has plenty of experience. They know how to produce fast cars. So that wouldn't be a surprise to see the number 19 Penrite car on pole position.
I'm going to opt for Brodie just because I love the history of this. And if he can get pole this year, that's 3 in a row for Brodie Kostecki at the Bathurst 1000. If you go back through the history books, there's only 2 men who've ever done that in the history of this race, and no one's done it in over 45 years. Do you know who the 2 guys are?
Might have a...
Or one of them at least?
Idea on one of them.
Might know one. So yeah. Alan Moffat was the first to do it, 70, 71, 72 with the factory Falcons. Peter Brock is the last one to do it, 77, 8 and 9 in the A9X Tiranas. But here's the kicker. They didn't swap teams or brands of cars. So Brodie's gone Erebus Chev for 2 years, now to DJR and Ford. Alan did factory Fords for 3 years. Brock did Tiranas, 1 with Bill Patterson, 2 with the dealer team. But the shootout wasn't there when Moff was there. The shootout came in partway through Brock's run of 3. So no one's nailed 3 shootouts in a row at Bathurst with that single lap, with the pressure on the line, all the eyes, all the expectation, and then had the car and team swap in among those 3 years. I reckon some history's here, and I cannot believe that of all of that pole money from Boost Mobile, we can only find $5,000 to put on the line at Bathurst. I've been going back through the numbers over the years. It was $15,000 back in the 90s, but we should make the point that the point to all this is that the teams get paid to go to Bathurst now. Back in those days, they had prize money to race for, but they weren't being paid by the ARDC or Channel 7 to go up there and race like they did once the Avesco era began. So, but of all that pole money in the year and all those checks, I'd love to see more than $5,000 on the line on Saturday afternoon.
Well, as a co-driver, Noons doesn't bother me too much because I'm not,
You don't
I'm
get
not
any
out
of
there.
it.
But if there was a deal where the main driver had to give his co-driver a bit of money, that'd be good. But just to quickly re-emphasise what you're talking about, Brodie, I've been his teammate at Erebus in 2023 and watching him apply his craft at setting up the car for the race and qualifying in the shootout, it's mightily impressive. So furthermore to the conversation about parity, that's what's going to make it even better for your storyline. If he can do it in a Ford, you know, I think it'd be pretty good. And if anyone's going to do it, it is Brodie. So he's got his engineer from the last 2 years as well. So, you know, it's about him executing on the day.
It would be a 3P2 for George Coleman, who is the engineer for Brodie Kostecki. My next question, you can't be on the fence for this, boys, either. Who will be a surprise runner in the top 10 shootout at Bathurst? Who's a surprise to get in there?
Well, I'm going to say Cooper Murray from Erebus Motorsport. And I think there's two reasons for that. One was Cooper was pretty quick there last year when he was driving with Lowndes and Triple Eight in that Wildcard. But obviously Erebus being the race-winning team from last year and the team that had those poles with Brodie the last 2 years, they're going to know the setup, they're going to know what the car needs, and it's going to be up to Cooper to execute. And he did a great job to get in the 10 at Tail and Bend, so that's where I'm going to put my money.
Moff, where are you putting your money if you had it?
Based on the performance of the team so far, I'm going to say the surprise will be Richie Stanaway.
Okay. In a way, would that be a surprise?
Based on the performance of
This year.
of the team.
Yep.
You know, Richie himself in the top 10 wouldn't be surprising.
Especially if it's wet.
Exactly
Yeah, true.
right.
True,
Oh,
yeah,
the news has told us it's not going to be.
No, well,
so you
unless,
can't be hanging out for that.
unless the
but,
Bureau changes its mind partway through the week.
So that's my surprise prediction.
I'm going to go Kai Allen in the car that Richie Stanaway used to drive, the 26 car for Penrite Grove. His rookie year's been fantastic. I would not have thought he'd be on multiple podiums this year and fighting for a spot in the finals. He's fighting for a spot in the 10 to get in the finals. To do that, he's got to fight for a spot to get in the 10 for the shootout. So I reckon Kai Allen would be a really pleasant surprise to see in that shootout. Now, last year, it was just the once that we saw a safety car head onto the track at Mount Panorama. So my question is, when will the final safety car fall in the 2025 race?
Well, I don't want to be...
Jack's on board the whole safety car thing here.
I don't want to be...
Flagged the whole way, Pete.
Yeah, I don't want to be negative Neville, but unfortunately, the trend is towards limited safety cars. And, you know, I guess we're, in theory, accumulating the best drivers in the country. We've got the best teams in the country. You know, 15 years ago, at least there was 5 or 6 engine manufacturers. So you had a chance of an engine expiring. But now all the engines are arguably the same from the two manufacturers. There's only 2 suppliers. The cars are nearly bulletproof.
Yeah.
And like I said, the drivers are not employed to make mistakes. So I worry that there won't be a safety car for the fear of the entertainment factor. But if I had to set one up as a competition caution, if you like, I'd be saying somewhere between 5 and 10 laps to go.
Nice.
The only curveball...
Are you being Neville about this, or are you being a bit more pro safety?
I won't go full extreme on the Neville.
No, it's
side
not a
of
zero,
things.
but it's not lots.
For me, the curveball or the unknown going into this year is we're going there with the new soft tyre. So the cars are a little bit edgier to drive on that tyre. So whether that has a factor over the course of the day, clearly, you know, 6 hours of racing, changeable conditions in terms of you know, unpredictability potentially in weather.
But even just track evolution without the weather changing.
Exactly. So, and it's Bathurst, you know, anything
Weird
can happen.
stuff.
So
Yeah.
we've seen a lot of weird stuff over the years. So, yeah, I agree with Perko in terms of the nature of the cars, but, you know, the reliability, those sort of things.
Someone's going to make a mistake somewhere, surely. When they're pushing on, final spots are on the line, wins on the line, there's different strategies at play, more people at more times on the track with a different thing going in their world, that might mix it up enough here. But you're right, it's not like the old days where there used to be 20 cars that blew up by lap 50 and, you know, this one blew up and that one failed. I mean, now if cars don't finish the race, it's generally because the driver made a mistake and crashed.
Yeah, and further to that, you know, we look at the wild cards sometimes for a potential of bringing out a safety car, and the 3 are run this year's 3 wildcards are all run by current Supercars teams. So none of those efforts are privateer teams, if you like. So yeah, that's unfortunately, to me, doesn't guarantee us any safety cars, but it's going to be interesting to watch and learn.
One thing will be the intensity of the race. We've always, probably over the last 10 or 15 years come to sort of say that last 30 laps is where it really lifts. But in my opinion, it's likely that most of the main drivers will be in from probably at least lap 90, lap 100. So that sort of last 60 laps of the race is when the intensity will really lift and it's go time.
Yep.
So, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. And, hopefully Jack and I aren't involved in any safety cars.
You'll be feet up with a drink, ready to watch and see what happens for your cars to run home. I'm going lap 145, by the way, so I'll put a number down because you guys have given us pretty much nothing in that regard. My next question is, there's a list here to choose from. Who will be the Rookie of the Year in the 2025 Repco Bathurst 1000? Now, over the years, back in the day, the Rookie of the Year award at Bathurst was a really significant, prominent award, and we've got a pretty good crop of guys here this year, and quite a lot of them too.
Yeah, we do, Noons, and you're right. Over the last 20 or 30 years, I can remember it being quite celebrated, the Rookie of the Year, and it was always an impressive effort just to finish the race back in those early days. And then if you were the top rookie, it was very well celebrated. So our list of drivers, we've been seeing some of their faces. That's Harry Jones there, but you've got Nash Morris, Job Stewart, Jared Hughes, Zach Bates, Lockie Dalton, and Rylan Gray. So there is an impressive list there, and there's some very well-credentialed drivers. But in answering the question, I hope it's Zach Bates. He's not only is he a good lad, but his family's been through some challenging times with losing his mother. So I hope that he's the Rookie of the Year, which means he'll do a good job.
Of course, he's driving with Craig Lowndes in the super cheap auto Camaro, and we want to send all our love to Zach and Rick and the whole Bates and Drower families on the loss of Ali Drower. And it reminded me, when we lose such great people like Ali, it takes us back to the stuff that we remember from over the years. And before we came on the show today, you reminded me of a great thing that happened way back in the day in the 90s when Ali was reporting on RPM on Channel 10. She followed the Castrol Perkins team at Bathurst, and she was kind of the good luck charm because they won that year. Yeah,
she was. I was only 11 years old, Noons, but I do remember Zach's mum Ali working for RPM at the time, the TV show on Channel 10, and they followed us around back to our house even in accommodation.
I think that's called stalking, isn't it?
Yeah, what we were doing during the week and everything, and obviously to win the race, and it was a cool little clip. And I actually spoke to Ali about it last year at Sandown when I was racing against Zach in Super 2. So yeah, very sad, and I hope Zach can do his mum proud. Should be very proud to know that he's racing the Bathurst 1000.
Win, lose or draw, I think he'll do that no matter what happens with the rookie side of things. There's 7, as you mentioned, in the list this year. And when I go back through some of the names that have won that Rookie of the Year award when it was actually an official thing in the 80s and the 90s particularly, it's a pretty handy list of rookies in among there. But then the list of guys who would have won it if it was still a thing, Brock Feeney, Sebastian Bourdais, it's a pretty handy list. Would have been Cameron Crick last year when he drove with Matt Stone Racing. But I've got a thing, and we mentioned this on the Sleuth website last year, but I want to start something here today. I want to bring back the Rookie of the Year award for the Bathurst 1000. Whether it's the Undercut, the V8 Sleuth award, I don't care what we call it. I will put my hand in my pocket. Back in the day, we're not going to do it for inflation numbers, but back in the day, it was $2,000. I will give $2,000 plus GST from V8 Sleuth, from the Undercut, to the top performing rookie in this year's race, or donate it to a charity of their choice. How's that?
That's good news. Well done.
Good.
I thought you were going to up me there, and I thought Jack was going to try to get in and claim me for $5,000 on the way through there. But
well, only if you can delete my start stats and make me a rookie again, then I'll be involved.
You just want the cash. That's all you want. I think Zach Bates is the obvious choice here, but obviously the Erebus boys, Job Stewart had a great run at the Ben 500. Harry Jones was solid. Nash Morris didn't really get a good crack at it with that car being in the pits quite early in the race. But Rylan Gray and Lockie Dalton are together. So, boys, if you win it, it's $1,000 each, not $2,000 each. That's an important thing to map out here. Let's absolutely get that to be very, very clear. Next question, and these guys sort of form part of this. Who will be the top wildcard in this year's Repco Bathurst 1000? There's 3 in the field. Can anyone top the super cheap car is probably the question.
Look, it'll be difficult for the other wildcard entries to do that, just the Lowndes factor. And, you know, for Zach Bates, that's sort of invaluable for him to be able to tap into all the experience that Lowndes has around the mountain. So that car as a wildcard entry, the 888 Super Cheap Auto wildcard entry has traditionally always been pretty strong over the weekend and particularly in the race. So, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they are the lead wildcard, but the Ryland Gray...
Weird things happen.
Lockie Dalton entry, you know, for those guys, if they can have a clean race,
yeah,
you know, they might surprise a few. You know, it wouldn't surprise me if they end up being the lead wild card. Those two boys have a really big weekend ahead of them, though, with managing their Super 2 commitments, and they're, you know, first and second in the championship, so they've got their priorities that lie with Super 2
I hope they don't have a drama in Super 2.
Well,
that's going to make the weekend fun.
It's going to be a massive weekend for them, and, you know, that's something that at Tickford we have been working with them to try and, you know, make sure they manage that situation as best as they can. So there's quite a few sessions for those guys that go back to back with the Super 2 car and jump straight into the Gen 3 car in the main game. So either way, it's, you know, it's a huge effort to get these cars to the track. So yeah, the 3 wildcard entries, full credit to them for being there and being part of the greatest race in the country.
So really, if everything goes right, it's the 888 car, and then it's if they make a mistake or have a drama that one of the others gets up.
I think so.
Yep. Who is a podium dark horse for the Repco Bathurst 1000 in 2025? Now, the definition of what is a dark horse is kind of a very personal choice on what you feel is a dark horse or not, but who would we be surprised to see up on that podium, and perhaps more a pleasant surprise than anything else?
Go Perks.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's certainly a few of them, but I'm going to say Ryan Wood and Jaden Ojeda. You know, Woody could have easily been on pole at the bend. He's come on really strong this year, and yeah, he could do something pretty special, I think, at Bathurst.
I'm going to go with Perkat Slade combination. That might not be a surprise.
What they did at the bend has got you on board there?
Yeah, definitely. So that'd be a nice surprise for me. Yeah, Perkat Slade.
I think a dark horse for the podium for me is car 18, Anton De Pasquale and Harry Jones. So if they get on the podium, Harry Jones is probably the rookie of the year, you would think, with the way that rolls. But my reasoning there is not so much because it would be a surprise, because Anton's had some really good results in the last 3 or 4 rounds. But Team 18 has been generally ordinary at the Bathurst 1000 for some years now. They finished 6th way back when with Frosty and Steve Richards in 2019, and since then, results have been really thin on the ground. So I think because of their Bathurst history, they would be a dark horse to be on the podium.
Yeah, that's a fair call. So, you know, I think they probably need to have a perfect day for that to unfold for them, and, you know, a few others to have trouble ahead of them. But, you know, it's not unrealistic.
Anything can happen, and at Bathurst it kind of usually does. Last question, and there's probably some really obvious answers here, but we have to ask it here on the Undercut. Who are our tips to win the Repco Bathurst 1000 for 2025? And gents, it's logical you will say yourselves, you're in this race to compete to win. You're not going there to make up the numbers. But if it's not you, who is it?
Wow, yeah, I'd obviously love for it to be myself and James Courtney, and if it wasn't, I'd love my mate Moff here to win it as well. But if you wanted me to pick purely off form and bits and pieces like that as a TV commentator, Noons, I can't go past the 88 of Brock Feeney, Jamie Whincup. Moff touched on it earlier that Brock's form this year has been, you know, very, very, very impressive. And Jamie Whincup will bounce back from some of the little mistakes, as will the team. I can promise you that they'll be very disciplined in their approach, and that's a worry for everyone racing against them. They
will have been stung by what happened at the bend, and there's nothing that you would probably fear more than a Jamie Whincup with a point to prove off the back of a tough weekend.
I'm just going to have to echo Perks' comments there at noon.
The echo chamber's open, it's echoing.
Yeah, outside of myself and Thomas, yeah, that 88 combination is very hard to go past.
Don't forget too, Brock Feeney's trying to win Bathurst for his first time. Jamie Whincup hasn't won the race. He's a 4-time winner, but he hasn't won since 2012. We've gone through Car of the Future, Gen 2, now we're into Gen 3. Who would have thought that we'd go through 3 eras of Bathurst without Jamie Whincup winning one of them? He's been close on plenty of occasions. I think that's probably the most logical one to tip, but if it's me being a little bit different, Matt Payne and Garth Tander for me for Penrite Racing. They've shown all the signs this year. When you get to the Enduros, you need a bit of luck, you need to be in the mix, you need a bit of speed. I like the blend of the youth and the experience between those two, and I think Grove Racing has been coming on very nicely. But we will wait and see what happens. That is the burning questions here on the Undercut.
The perfect way to prepare for the Repco Bathurst 1000 is to grab your copy of the official program for this year's great race. Packed with driver profiles and plenty of features on the present and past stars of the mountain, this 144-page publication is a must to add to your collection. Fans have been collecting these program keepsakes dating all the way back to the first race in 1963. And now is the time to grab your copy of the 2025 edition. Let's go! It's available now online from the V8 Sleuth Superstore and via a range of newsagents around Australia in the lead up to the Repco Bathurst 1000.
Time for some one-way traffic here on the Undercut, and this is our time to ask the boys about their experiences, and we asked them on the last show about their first Bathurst 1000. This week on the show, we're going to ask them about their first Bathurst 1000 podium. Moff, we'll start with you. 2014 was a very weird day at Mount Panorama. You got on the podium with a Nissan that did not look like it started the day.
No, there was certainly a bit going on that day.
That's the understatement of the show.
So, yeah, probably the one and only time the race has been red flagged halfway through its duration, and yeah, it was timely for us that that red flag occurred because we needed to undertake some fairly significant repairs to the front of the car.
Plenty of tape. Was it better aero-wise there?
It was a little bit slippery.
A little slippery with all that tape on the front?
Straight, actually, so, yeah.
And that was actually from... Well, Taz Douglas, your co-driver, got put in the wall. Cam Waters moved over on him in your car, Jack, to put the Nissan there, and then he ended up back in the wall there a bit later on when the track broke up.
Yeah, so the first time he ended up in the wall was, like you said, Waters put him in the fence, and then the second time was when the track was breaking up, and yeah, not long after that is when the red flag got called because there was a sequence of cars that all ended up in the fence, not least of all Paul Morris.
Well, the cars that finished first and second, both were in the fence.
And the other car was, I think, Ash Walsh at the time in the
Wilson security car, yeah.
With Scott Pye. So, yeah, it was just a weird old day at Bathurst, and you know, to end up second was something that I guess when the car was looking like that, we could never have dreamt of. But you know, just goes to show that you never give up, and that the team certainly never gave up. They worked, you know, just flat out under that red flag period repairing the car and to get it back into a reasonable state. And we were the last car on the lead lap when that race swept back to green flag running, and to end up second at the end of the day. It was a long old day, and yes, being up on the podium was a lifelong memory.
Two things. I can't believe they didn't have yellow race tape. The black race tape. Look,
not a good look.
What's going on there? The second thing that I saw, I don't know if anyone else picked up on it, was Taz Douglas on the podium holding his phone. And I remember sometime after asking Taz, and he showed me the video, and that was pretty cool. I don't know if you're actually allowed to take your phone up there anymore, but he took his phone up and filmed the whole thing.
There's a story there, Jack.
Yeah, and there was it was a great video, and yeah, I was...
That will never see the light of day publicly ever, probably.
Probably not, but I've seen it, so that's all that matters.
I've seen it too. But you got in a little bit of trouble, James.
You were up there, Nudes.
I didn't win anything. Oh, yes, I was. Yes, it was. Yes, I was. That was our chance to share a Bathurst podium together. It was very nice.
Yeah, Tassie did get a bit of a tap on the shoulder for that footage after the event. So anyway, he sends it to me before every Bathurst and says, make sure you get back up there. So yeah, I actually have the front bar off that car
with
at
tape.
Home. Well,
bit of tape.
It's still got a bit of tape on it. So yeah, a little momentum. I got the driver's side door that has a massive dent in it, and the front bar. So a couple of parts off the car as memento.
When did you know in that race? Because there was so much crazy stuff going on. Lowndes into the back of Winterbottom, Van Gisbergen's car wouldn't restart. Crazy stuff going on everywhere. When did it dawn on you that I might actually get on the podium here? We are going okay here.
Yeah, it was sort of that last it's a bit of a blur, but really that sort of last, I'm going to say, 10 or 12 laps where it was we're all really starting to kick off. I think we were running maybe 5th at the time, and Lowndes and Winterbottom come together. I think Lounsey sent Winterbottom coming off.
It was the sun. It was the sun.
Exit turn 1, wasn't it?
Turn
Yeah.
one.
That's why I love Hell Corner so much.
I think I jumped into 4th at that point. I remember seeing it at the time going, well, Lounsey's a fair chance to get a penalty there, and sure enough got a drive through, so we slipped into 3rd, and at that point I was like, okay, we're a chance here if we can sort of just keep it on the track. And then come the last lap, obviously everything sort of kicked off with Jamie and the fuel, and yeah, he ran out coming down Conrod and past him coming out of the chase, and yeah, we ended up 2nd. So yeah, it was a bit surreal at the time.
Jack, 2014 is a bit of a one that got away for you, isn't it?
Yep, absolutely, Noons. We, myself and Cam Waters, who was a rookie, we were looking really good. I think I might have passed Moff in the second to last stint to get into 3rd or 4th.
Would have been down the straight.
It was probably most likely definitely down the straight.
Sounds like a distant driver.
We had a great day to that point and looking pretty good to be on the podium, but yeah, we didn't. I think we got a drive through for getting released into Fabian Coulthard in pit lane, which, you know, I think that
was late in the race, wasn't it? So there wasn't much time to recover.
And I think that car controller was a serial offender for me, to be honest. I think I had 3 or 4 of them throughout the year at Tickford, but we can't get hung up in the history. It's what could have been. I was proud of getting in the shootout that year, and Cam did a great job in his first ever Bathurst, but we didn't get the results, and that's all that matters now.
You had to wait 5 years to get to that podium. So 2019, yourself and James Courtney for the Walkinshaw Andretti United team, and you guys started 17th that day to finish 3rd. I mean, that was a hell of a fight.
It was. You know, we didn't have the speed in practice and qualifying from memory, but what had happened earlier in the day was James Courtney got a puncture, and it meant we had to do a green flag stop. And from that point, Terry Kerr, our engineer, and us had decided we had to save fuel from that point on to get back on strategy with everyone else. And throughout the course of the day, we saved lots of fuel and kept overcutting people in the pits. And then when we got track position right at the end and it became a fuel conservation race, James and I had already spent 90 laps conserving fuel. So, it was a great strategy call in the end from the team at Walkinshaw Andretti United. And to be honest, James had tagged the fence late in the race, and the right rear wheel had about an inch run out, and he managed to hang on and hold position. And to be honest, the way the cars were, Lowndes wasn't even close to James on that restart. So, great effort. There's been certainly other years like 2014 where we probably felt like we should have been on the podium, and then arguably this year in 2019 strategy helped us get there. But to be able to stand up there with James was awesome, really awesome moment.
Who are you pointing at there?
It was either the team or even my wife Tara was pregnant with our first daughter. So it could have been Tara. But this was also a really cool moment to be standing on the podium with Dick Johnson and Roger Penske.
Roger's already left by this stage because he knows what's coming.
But to be there,
got
and
Dick
then
on the way through there.
Got Dick on the way through, and no, what a cool moment. I look back in 30 or 40 years and say, hey, I got to stand on the podium with Dick Johnson and Roger Penske. That's pretty cool.
We hope we see you both back up there this year in the Repco Bathurst 1000. It would be a great result for the Undercut family to have our boys up there spraying some champagne, and just make sure whoever's up there for the winning team, just get them on the way before they get to the door and make their way off the podium. Next up, here on the Undercut, it's time for our City Rural Insurance Brokers Classic Car as we take a look at a car that conquered the mountain back in 2016. It's the Techno Autospoke Commodore of Will Davison and Jonathan Webb, the winner of the closest finish, competitive-wise, in great race history. Brad, Bathurst winning race car, that's got to be a dream come true for a race car nuffy like you.
Absolutely, yeah. Never thought I'd get the opportunity to be the custodian of such an awesome piece of history. Certainly with that Car of the Future era, my opinion is really it's one of the best eras around where all of the icons were driving these cars, and it was fantastic motorsport.
Where were you at Bathurst in 2016 when this thing won the race? Do you remember the race vividly? What stands out to you?
Yeah, I was trackside. I've been there every year since 1987, bar the COVID event. So, yeah, obviously I was there at the track, and I do remember quite clearly at the time because it was such an awesome finish. And I think even when you look back on it today, it's got to be in the top 10 Bathurst finishes.
The finish between Will and Shane is the closest Bathurst winning margin between competing cars as opposed to form finishes and stuff like that. So your car's in the record books for hopefully a very long time here, not just for being a winner, but the winner of the closest race.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, yeah, it was sort of one of those potentially Bradbury moments that they talk about, but nonetheless, the history books certainly reflect what happened there on that day, and it's a winner.
So how do you come to end up with this car? What's the process of becoming the custodian of Bathurst 1000 winner?
Oh, well, you would have heard of Facebook Marketplace, Aaron. Like, no, only joking. Essentially, just with my association and friendship with Pete Ziveris, and I was introduced to Ben Eggleston. They had the car. Essentially, Pete was at my place one Sunday morning and simply said, hey, would you like to own a Bathurst winner? And, of course, the answer to that was categorically yes. But then the reality set in, you've got to actually pay for one of these things. So, yeah, that was how it happened, literally, because Pete's mindset was it would be good to have some of his mates have some of the cars so we can all go out and do events like this, because I guess you can only drive one at once.
Tell me too about what's been done to put this car back to how it ran at Bathurst in 16. For some it's just the stickers. Is it the spec of what's underneath the skin? What level of, I guess, restoration or recreation have you had to do to get this car back to how it appears now?
Yeah, so Eggleston's undertook the restoration, and anyone that's seen any of Ben's workmanship in the past would understand his enormous attention to detail. So when you have a look at the car, it's now exactly how it was when it crossed the line at Bathurst, and of course when it's probably better than it was when it sat on the grid. So what they did do though is full external restoration on it, which included all the paintwork, the livery and all the rest of it. But what's quite interesting when you look inside the car, it's just been cleaned. So it wasn't like it was fully painted inside. So it left a lot of, I guess, that original patina in there, which sort of adds to it.
There was a point where this car appeared at the Adelaide Motorsport Festival with a Formula One guest driver at the wheel. I mean, how does it go when you hand over your Bathurst winning baby to a Formula One driver? I mean, that doesn't happen very often.
No, look, it was, I guess, an experience to say the very least. Yeah, it's not every day you do get an F1 driver in your car. At the same time, I suppose he certainly tested Kenny's KRE engine and the drivetrain on the day, but it certainly held up to it, and we haven't had to do anything to it at the moment, yeah, apart from some minor maintenance, but we did have KRE give it the okay, so, and Eggleston's as well. So, yeah, it's fine.
Some of Valtteri's best work. What's this thing like to drive? You've driven touring cars and V8 supercars before, but what's this thing like to drive?
Look, the previous supercar, which I still own, is the ex-John Faulkner Holden Young Lions car, which is a VX. And when I got into that, previously I'd had Porsche GT3 Cup cars, and, you know, being quite aero-reliant cars, you jump into that, and I thought, oh, wow, you know, this thing's moving all over the place. It's everything what you thought it'd be. And then I remember distinctly when we were at Winton and we did the handover, we had Tim Slade there, and Pete had one of his cars. And when we pulled in the pit lane after about 3 or 4 laps, Pete walked up to me, and I think I had a face like a split watermelon under the helmet, and he said, what have we been doing mucking around with all these really old S-boxes? Essentially this thing was just like the pinnacle, really, and yeah, terrific cars to drive, very challenging, but yeah, a lot of fun, never gets old.
Do you consider yourself the custodian of this car? Everyone's got a different take on how these things are deemed, whether it's the ownership or the custodianship. What's your take? Do you see you're just hanging on to it for a while as it becomes a historic piece of motorsport over the years?
Yeah, 100%. In fact, I think possibly in one of your publications I have been quoted as saying I am a custodian, because obviously I think I may have mentioned that with the DJR Mustang that I had many years ago, is that, yeah, I see that you are a custodian of a very important piece of motor racing history, and in part that's why I was very determined to bring the car to events like this with Eggleston, so that way all of the fans can still see and enjoy them as opposed to being locked away in my shed or even in a museum. So yeah, but it's definitely an honour and a privilege to be that custodian.
Great to look back on a classic Bathurst 1000 winner, and we really appreciate too the support of City Rural Insurance Brokers and Andrew Bender and the team here on the Undercut. They've been on the insurance scene since 1995. A great year for Perkins Engineering at the Mountain. They can help you with all your insurance needs, whether it's for business, for transport, for trades, for farming. Jack, you do farming, and much, much more. Talk to the City Rural team now. Grab yourself a quote. Jump online at cityrural.au. They are your insurance pit crew. Time for the Workbench here on the Undercut, and it's our chance to delve into a couple of topics and issues. Boys, I like to solve problems. I think we've got some problems here. Problem, would you agree that cars are not on track in supercars often enough in a calendar year?
Well, yeah, certainly in racing terms, absolutely.
Okay, but full stop.
Yes.
Okay, problem, cars not being on the track means that there's not as much content, not as much stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
Hard to argue against.
Okay, rookie drivers need more of a crack at getting more time in these cars.
Yes.
Well, 3 problems, 1 solution. I was actually watching recently some of the sports in America, and indeed the AFL here and some of the other football codes. We have drafts, so the teams that don't go so well get the better opportunity in the draft the next year. You finish last on the ladder, you get the number 1 draft pick, that sort of thing. I was thinking that we need to have more testing in supercars overall. 2 days a year just doesn't cut it. I mean, we need cars on track more often. And if we're in a situation potentially next year where there's only 12 rounds, I mean, it's being discussed that it could be that way. Even if it's 14 or 12, it's not enough over the course of a whole year. So I'd like to see us change testing here. I'd like to see us take the Teams Championship and apply it so as those at the end. I've got some graphics here, I've brought some material, I've come prepared. If you finish at the top 3 of Teams Championship, so at the moment, 888 Groves and Tickford, you get to stick with what you got now. 2 test days for the year. That's a whole other debate about when they should happen and how they should happen. But what I'd like to see is a tiered system where you've got something else to get out of the Teams Championship. Now, for those who aren't quite there, the next batch, 4th, 5th, 6th, Walkinshaw's, DJR, Team 18, give them an extra test day. Now, my preface here is you don't have to use it if you don't want to, but you've got it if you would like to.
They'll use it, Noonan.
Oh, they'll find a way to use it.
It'll be used.
So Matchstone Racing, BJR, Erebus are next. Give them an extra day. And then the bottom 2 teams in the championship, Premier and Blanchards at the moment, as it sits, give them more. Give them up to 5 test days a year. More time for their co-drivers. More time for these teams who generally have rookie drivers. What are your thoughts and feelings on this? Put your team caps aside, but from the betterment of the sport, from the betterment of all those things I outlined at the front.
I mean, it's a tricky one, Noons, because I think it opens up the whole testing conversation. So a lot of people that are watching this show may not know from how test day works from our side, and the biggest problem with testing for me at the moment is a lack of tyres. So when we go testing, we don't get brand new tyres. We'll turn up and go, oh, these have done, one set will have done 80 kilometres at Townsville, the next set will have done 35 kilometres from Queensland Raceway, and the next set would have done 20 kilometres at Tasmania, right? So then you're going out on track and you don't know the quality of the tyre. That's the first issue. The second part of that is the test tracks. Winton, the Victorian teams, don't get to race there. And we see the advantage when you get to test at a track where you race. You look at Zach Bates in the Wildcard this year, tested at Queensland Raceway, got to race there and put the testing to good use. So you've got to actually give the teams and drivers proper testing because, to be honest, if you don't race at Winton, you might as well do test days on a runway or something like that because they're not completely beneficial when you don't get to race there.
So should some of the testing be opened up now that you can test at other tracks, one other nominated track?
Well, what I like this year, and Moff might agree or disagree, is the fact that we did our pre-endurance test day at Queensland Raceway after the race. It's the first time I've tested anywhere other than Winton in maybe 10 years, and we've been racing there. So you had a yardstick of performance, you had a yardstick from where the team was with their primary driver, and we turned up Monday or Tuesday, whichever day it was, and we got to do a full day's testing. That to me was great. So maybe, I like what you're proposing. I think it's a good idea to kind of give the teams championship some more weight, but I do like an element of the rookie thing with what Formula One do, giving drivers a run on the Friday. So whether it's before the race weekend or after the race weekend, the ability to test and get miles at circuits where you're going to race at that you otherwise can't test at is something that I would put in the mix there.
I don't think this would change the whole landscape. Those teams at the back of the Teams Championship are not going to have extra days next year suddenly win races. That's not going to be that simple. my point coming from this is all those elements I mentioned at the front. More cars on track more often, so therefore more content, more things to talk about, more things to film, more things to get on the news. The bit is putting the athletes on the playing field. So in football, they're playing every weekend, but they're training during the week as well, usually 2 times a week. So they're on the field. You guys are not on the field very often, whether you're racing for real, testing, doing whatever it might be. So I'm just trying to find a way that we can get more cars on a track more often.
Yeah, and that's where motorsport is very unique in that aspect, that for a footballer, a golfer, a cricketer, they practice their sport by actually performing their sport.
You can go in the nets and
you can go and hit as many golf balls every day of the week as you want. You can go and kick the footy as much as you want every day of the week. But for a race car driver and the teams, we can't go to the track every day and practice what we do.
But
So-
you two are about to go into the biggest race of the year. Effectively, we're asking you to play in the grand final, having barely trained all year. I think co-drivers have got such an unfair situation here where the amount of time that they've had in a race car to go and perform on the biggest and grandest stage in front of the biggest audience of the year, the pressure that goes on you because of the level of prep that you can't have, I think it's grossly unfair. And for these test days, surely there's got to be a point where you get a test day or 2 just for the co-drivers, just for you, not a case of how many laps the team decides to give you because the main guy's busy doing setup work or whatever it might be. No, there's a day or 2 purely for your signed, locked-in endurance driver.
Yeah, well, a situation like that might be, viable moving forward. But, Jack touched on it with the tyres. I remember back in 2014 when I was at Nissan Motorsport, and Nissan had arranged for 2 of their factory drivers to come out and test the Nissan Altima.
Michael Krum was one of them, wasn't he?
So,
Lucas Ordonez.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So one was in the Jack Daniels car, Michael Krum, and Lucas Ordonez drove my Norton car. And I remember speaking with Michael out the back of the garage, and he said when they went testing, he was a Japan GT, factory Nissan driver, Japan GT. And he said when they went testing, they would have 15 sets of brand new tyres all lined up. Every time he would go out on track, brand new set of tyres. And I remember on that day, the team had managed to secure 1 brand new set for him to have a go on at the end of the day. Otherwise, like Jack said, you're using your best dirty clothes throughout the day in terms of tyres.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's rubbish, really, to think that the teams are put in those situations, because it's the only thing that connects the car to the road is the rubber that's underneath it.
Yeah, and to give you another real sport example, it'd be like Pat Cummins and Mitchell Stark going into the nets for the weeks leading into the Ashes using second-hand balls.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, and then they finally get a brand new ball in the game. It's like, oh, hang on, this thing's doing a bit different to what it was doing in the net.
Scooping off the pitch.
But imagine telling those guys, oh, we're going to save a bit of money here and we won't give you new balls. Like, that's what the tyre situation's like. It's just, it's crappy.
When you ask team owners, and I've asked a few at the Bend, that what does a test day cost you? And they all say, bugger all.
Yeah.
I mean, in the grand scheme of things, not very much at all. I mean, even if you took some staff to head up to Winton the night before to set up, or a couple of nights of a night of hotels and the like, for the amount of money that these teams spend, this wouldn't even touch the sides. You wouldn't even see it, but the benefits would be far bigger.
Well, and by the testing restrictions that are being put in place now, the teams are now having to invest in simulation programs and other bits and pieces to try and make up for that shortfall. So the fact of the matter is,
they're still spending the money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Motorsport is expensive. You're never going to get around that. And the teams that have the money and the ways of spending that money are always going to find ways to do it.
And one last point on the test days, and I refer back to Queensland Raceway. Why wouldn't we have live timing on a pre-endurance test day? And further to that, don't separate it in car numbers, separate it in driver numbers.
Yep.
So at the end of the test day, instead of having 25 times, driver's times, there would have been 50.
Yep.
And you go, oh, that co-driver's not on the pace. That
Stories, content.
Stories, content, you're right. And just make it meaningful. And then, everyone got tyres, everyone had lap times. Let's get some form and, like you say, something to talk about.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. And it will stop us talking about a lot of these things because it will actually give us something to talk about. Something else that we chased up at V8 Sleuth, which occurred to us at the Bend, obviously in the off-season we're going to see some teams convert cars to Toyota Supras. Walkinshaw's are converting one of their Mustangs. Brad Jones's team will convert some Camaros. And we asked the question, do they get a new car shakedown day, which is only a 20-lap or a 60-kilometre run that's permitted for new cars? And we were told by Tim Edwards, and there's a story on our website this week, that no, they're not deemed new cars because the chassis are the same. But there's precedent here that you go back to 2020 when Kelly's converted a Nissan into a Ford Mustang, they were given a new car shakedown day. So 20 laps isn't going to change the world, but why wouldn't we try to find a way or an excuse to say, look, it's a brand new, different engine, new wiring, new everything, new panel work. It's the chassis underneath. It's the only common element. Let it have 20 laps at Winton to give us something to write about, something to talk about, another new cars on the track, something else to write about and talk about in that January, February period.
Well, especially in that period of like you say, Noons, over January and February, you know, through the bulk of the year, Supercars is competing against the two major footy codes in the country, being the AFL and NRL.
Who are training twice a week, playing every weekend, who have drafts, have trade period. They have a 12-month news cycle and they don't play for 12 months.
Yeah, so, you know, if there's an opportunity to see a Toyota Supra running around the track for the first time for 20 laps at Winton or, you know, in February or January next year, I think it's maybe a bit of a missed opportunity from Supercars in general.
Well, and have a look at what the Americans did with Will Brown. He got to take that NASCAR for a fang around the block at the workshop. But that's further to your point. You don't want to go to the practice session on the race meeting and miss the first half an hour because, you know, something fell off the car. All you're doing, you're not testing. You're just making sure the car's going to work so that when you get to the track for the event, you've got that limited mileage. You know, you're able to use that time to your potential. And just touching on the Supra, what about that on the AFL Grand Final? Just sitting there in the background, that looked quite neat.
It looked fantastic. That was I mean, you're going to see more of that next year, where Toyota, who are a player now in Supercars, they're in AFL, they're in NRL, they're in all the top tier Aussie sports. That's the other bit that I don't think people have picked up on of why them coming to Supercars is great, because they're everywhere else. They'll take Supercars. I can't remember a Supercar being on the MCG ever, and it was in the background of probably, well, the biggest watch match of the year in the presentation when the medals and the cup were given out to the Brisbane Lions. There it was, up in the background. Okay, you didn't see it on camera all the time. 100,000 people, well, probably 90,000, 10,000 Geelong fans probably gone home by then, but they saw it and it was exposed to them that in a way that they probably never are exposed to it before. Fantastic.
Would have been a few people from the race team that probably scored a couple of tickets.
I think there was
Vinny and Robbie Starr there, but
Yeah.
I also think that someone wanted to take it for a drive. I think that maybe the team asked if they could lead the parade lap around the boundary line. Now didn't give them that thing a fang around the MCG.
I think that may have been.
the ground staff would be too happy if you started ripping up the
Not
turf
good for-
there.
Maybe after the game.
Maybe after the game before cricket season if you're going to relay the turf. But as always on the workbench, plenty to discuss. Tell us what you think about the testing restrictions. Tell us what you think about my little plan for how some of those teams down the field can be able to get more testing miles. Hit us up on the V8 Sleuth website and the socials and we'll report back in future episodes.
The race is on for the Shell Motorsport Collection. Better be quick. Collect all 8 while stocks last. Only available at Shell OTR and Shell Ready Express.
Time on the undercut for our top 5, fuelled by Shell V-Power. And boys, we've seen V8 Utes before, but it's Bathurst time. So let's look at some V8 Ute Bathurst classics. 2011, Charlie Kovacs here, getting into it with Grant Johnson. That's not the way to exit the elbow.
No, it's not. I love watching these old highlights of the V8 Utes Noons. This is a great time of racing, and man, did they get some carnage back in this day. Were you in this one, Moff, or is this?
No, this is post-Moff.
Post-Moff's time.
This is a bit further down the line. This is 2011.
Okay.
Let's go to 2013, where pretty much everyone got into this one.
And that's a bit of a domino
That's-
effect with 3 guys, including
Chris Walton's in among there.
out of the race.
It's the old,
I think that's Jesse Dixon in the Heyman Reese car who got unloaded. 2 shunts in one corner. That's how good the Utes were.
Yeah, that's what I remember. The Utes being. The old 4 into 1 didn't work. Couple backwards in the sand trap there.
Let's have a look on board with Craig Doddas, who these days is
Campbell.
sponsorship out at Supercars. He's 3 to 1.
Campbell.
Well, he was the one that made it through. Got away with it on his way up Mountain Straight. Meanwhile, there's someone
Whoever
else.
was in that Repco car sort of kicked all that off. And
I think that was Chris Walton there to the
Yeah.
inside. But look at them, they're all parking in the sand as well. We didn't see that in the first run. And Jesse Dixon's car's not tracking too straight. Noel Edge Wham! Remember, that's the same year that Chaz Mostert went in the same fence.
Oh, and then Warren Millett behind him did well. A big sideways moment through
He
there.
just carried on.
It carried on, and this is reverse at the chase. What, 190-ish?
If you're lucky.
You're very quiet here, boys. You're suddenly worried. This one's well wide. Jack Elsgood, 2011. Wait for this. Wait for it. Wait for it. So close.
Stars, whoever was in that.
Charlie O'Brien nearly got cleaned up all the way through. Let's look at it from the outside angle.
The big moment through the king.
Here we go. Oh, bit of wet grass.
Doesn't stop on the grass. Side skirt goes, and that's close.
Close as you'll get.
But at least he ended up on his wheels in that sand trap. Let's have a look again. So O'Brien got a run on him and went to the inside, and they just pegged it through here, but not enough road to play with there, but so lucky.
And that was wet grass. I remember that year, 2011. A lot of rain on the Thursday and Friday. Oh, he's very lucky.
And we bleeped out what he said there. This is, well, Ben Cavich is the first one, but this is not as bad as it gets. It gets worse here, gents.
Oh no, what's going to happen here now?
Wait for it. Wait for it. It's not Ben Cavich you need to be looking at. It's Alan Letcher, who ends up and over in the sand. He was okay, thankfully, but that Commodore, yeah, slightly used.
Yeah, that would have been an interesting insurance claim, that one,
With
dudes.
handlebars here. Oh, he gives him a shove.
So Cavich gets sent.
By handlebars, Kovacs.
Yep, into the Xbox sign. Can't see where he's going. But this is what happened to Alan Letcher. That'll happen up in front of him.
Oh, King Al.
And he's just gone to the left.
Barred left.
And in it goes.
Oh.
That's Grant Denyer in the background here making the sound effect.
The wipers are going.
Wipers work. That's about it. Another angle here. Just trips itself up and over onto the bitumen.
That's a vicious roll, isn't it?
Nasty.
Look at the tailgates off.
Yep, gone. That is our top 5. Fueled by Shell V-Power here on the Undercut. We like to go back into the files and find some interesting stuff.
Well, those clips, it started off pretty tame there with old Charlie Kovacs, but
We stepped it up. We stepped it up.
One at the end there, didn't we?
Up and over. Alan Letcher.
Oh, he's got the shades on.
Shades are on. Time to pull the plug on this episode of The Undercut. It's our chance to plug some stuff, tell you about some things that you need to know about, and the Shell Motorsport Collection is what you need to know about. They are on display here on the desk in front of us, gents. There's 8 of these cars over the next 8 weeks that will be released. The Ferrari Formula One car is first up this week. I reckon being Bathurst next week, surely the Supercars got to be the one that they release next week. They're available from Shell OTR and Shell Ready. You've got to spend $20 on fuel or convenience in store, and you get the opportunity to buy one of these. There's IndyCar, Formula E, NASCAR, Sports Car, World Rally Car, and Supercar as well. And there's a special tin that you can also get to put them in to collect them all. One a week. Which one do you want?
Well, Jack and I both have sons that I think would be fairly interested in all of those. So anybody at Shell that might be able to help us out.
Hook us up.
Hook us up.
We know some people. They're only available for a limited time, but there'll be one released every week. We will release on our V8 Sleuth website which car is the one that's going to be released each week. They won't tell us what's the order yet. We've been trying to get it out of them, but they won't tell us which is the order. So the way that they are displayed here is not the way that they're going to be rolled out. So get a mug at the Shell Motorsport Collection. Great little collection of cars. They did this a few years ago and it was really popular with collectors around the place. We've got to plug the Repco Bathurst 1000 program. It's available now. Jack is he's trying to steal the copy here on the desk. Online on the website there. Oh, well played there. You're earning your money today. Very well done. It's in newsagents again this year for the first time in a couple of years as well. Not the only thing in the superstore to keep your eye on, because now in stock, Colin Bond, the 1969 Bathurst winner, the new book Full Tilt, is out now. I've had a little sneak peek, but I haven't had a chance to fully read it. We'll see Bondy at Bathurst next week. He's always there. He's done that book with John Smales. You can grab your copy now from our online store, Superstore.
Could have easily been a 2-time Bathurst winner, Colin Bond,
Yes,
had he not
true.
been a gentleman and followed Big L across the line in 77.
He is probably the nicest man in Australian motorsport, isn't he? But he's in the history books forever. The only guy to win the Touring Car Championship, the Bathurst 1000, or the 500 as it was then, and the Australian Rally Championship. I can't see that changing anytime soon. It's quite unbelievable. Of course, Channel 7 will be providing free-to-air coverage of the Repco Bathurst 1000. Tomorrow, Sunday, the preview show. Jack, you're steering the ship there with Garth Tander and Mark Winterbottom, and then 3 days of coverage. Friday, Saturday and Sunday across 7, 7 Mate and 7 Plus. Big team there. Mel McLaughlin, Mark Beretta, the whole team. Perko, you'll find some time to steer a microphone, I'm sure, between co-driving duties as well. I might pop up there and do some little bits of history in among it all too. It's going to be a very big weekend for all the stuff that's going on around Bathurst with the coverage. Don't forget to Fox Sports and KO for the coverage across the full 4 days. If you're in Bathurst or thinking about going to Bathurst too, on the Tuesday night up there at Reckless Brewing, there's an evening with Autobarn. They're putting on a night there. The Tickford guys will be there. I'll be there as well. A bunch of giveaways. That's going to be a pile of fun as well. And Jack, it would be remiss of me not to mention that there's a lovely cap here on the desk as well.
There is, mate. Yep, Perkins Engineering.
Oh, he's got a model as well. He's modelled magazines, caps. He's done it all. Will you be wearing that one at Bathurst next week?
I might wear it on the drive up, Noons.
Yeah.
Perkinsengineering.com.au for these nice looking trucker hats. I actually need a new one. Mine's getting a bit long in the tooth.
Perkinsengineering.com.au. What else would we find?
You'd have to check it out. A few old car parts. We've got a bit of memorabilia on there, Moff.
Is that memorabilia?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, a few old car parts, a couple of bits and pieces there. It's always changing. We're always trying to get rid of old stuff. So jump online. I'll give you a discount, Moff. You can snaffle a few things on the way through.
Beautiful.
Bit of old gold on the Perkins Engineering website. Love it. Great to have you boys on board with us on the Undercut this week. We've pulled the plug. We've plugged everything that there is to plug. All that is left now is to determine who is going to win the great race. The Repco Bathurst 1000. We've got a massive week of coverage on the V8 Sleuth website with Connor O'Brien, the whole team up there. There's so many things going on at the mountain over the course of race week. Whether you're going to be there or watching on the couch at home, it's going to be a massive week. Hope you enjoy all the action. To our boys, go well. We'll catch you next time here on the Undercut for 2025.